Hey everyone, this is Liia, and welcome to my final tier list video for this season of RTA. This video will be different from others in that I will be explaining every unit's role in the meta similar to my original tier list video. There are also some slight changes to the tiers themselves, and I'll go through that real quick. So S+ tier, these are the most broken units in the game and they have the highest priority. You pretty much want to first pick one of these every game. And for S tier, they're pretty much the next best units and you want to pick them alongside the S+ tier, but they aren't quite first pick worthy. Now for A tier, I actually separated this into A and A- tier because A was becoming too saturated. Basically, A tier units are situational picks that almost always perform well when they are picked in their right situation. A- is basically the same, but the units in this tier are picked much less often. With this change, I believe it'll be easier for people to prioritize units to build. And as for B tier, these are units that may seem strong, but are actually very unreliable. For example, Greenlandy, you missed your guardian light, you're dead. So yeah, and as for cleave, I believe cleave units don't really need a ranking because they're all encompassed in the playstyle, and cleave as a whole is quite strong. There is no reason to differentiate the units. So yeah, with that said, let's get into it. So this tier list, the units are in no particular order at all, so like it doesn't mean Emol haste is the best or A tywin is the worst. This is in no particular order. So yeah, let's start with Emol haste, the S+ tier, and go down. Now Emol haste, probably one of the best anchors in the game. He punishes you for killing his team with tons of damage. He's very flexible. He's used in pretty much every style. He's an anchor for aggressive play, for cleave play, and a lot of standard players play him as like tons of ER. Like he's really weak to debuffs. A bunch of people would just slam a bunch of ER on haste, and then like his counters don't really work. Like a lot of people will pick DDR, and then boom, 200 some ER haste. Your DDR is missing all his debuffs. So yeah, very strong with as any kind of anchor. You can build him to troll debuffers. Yeah, he's basically really annoying. Senya is pretty much the same thing, except she doesn't heal and she only protects one person. But she punishes you for, you know, not having your damage control, just like Emol haste. And she's extremely popular as an early pick for cleave and aggressive players, because yeah, she's an anchor. She protects your backline really well. The CR boost is really great tempo. For example, like Gala, like if you hide Gala behind her, Gala can S3, and then Senya's gonna S3, and then Gala is gonna be like taking her turn almost immediately again. So yeah, tons of aggro and cleave synergy. However, she is slightly less popular in standard play, unless you're playing a draft like Protect Candy or something. She is slightly less popular in standard. Most people would prefer Liia, DDR, Emol haste over her. But yeah, very strong unit. If you wanna be aggressive at all, she is very good. Liia is pretty much like the queen of slow play. She's the best cleanser in the game. She stops Lua and Knockwall, but she also pairs very well with Lua and Knockwall. And like if you pick the best cleanser with the best debuffers, the other person doesn't have much left. So yeah, Liia is very toxic in slow play because she has insane synergy with debuffers. And after a few turns, she will murder you with her S3. Very toxic unit. She's been this strong since her release. Like she is absolutely bonkers. She's probably the most popular playstyle right now. next to DDR and a tywin, so yeah, extremely strong, good cleanse, good damage, enables a lot of toxicity. Emol is like the premier aggressive unit. Her resource reduction is very obnoxious. Her pushback and speed down, very obnoxious. Her synergy with a tywin and Genua is ridiculous. And yeah, the worst part is basically her CR reduction. She really limits what you can do against her. And for that reason, I feel like if you're a slow player, she's almost always permabanned, because like fighting her is miserable. Like she doesn't get punished that easily. Let's say you try to pick Green Celine into her, she's gonna pass her buttons and then you have a useless Green Celine. Like this kind of unit doesn't have very much counterplay at all. Because like for just existing, she does a lot, especially with like because of her resource reduction and stuff. So yes, very strong unit. Probably the most toxic thing about her is that there's a lot of artifact diversity. She could be on stealth artifact, she could be on soul artifact, she could be on defense break artifact. And she could also be like insanely fast, like you can't even cleave her because like some people are like 310 speed on her. But yeah, extremely game warping unit, enables insane aggressive play that most people probably can't deal with at all, including me. She's perma pre-banned for me. So yeah, really good unit. If you want to be aggressive, this is the premier aggressive unit. Emolina is very similar to Politis. She limits your options a lot because most of the units in this game are very reliant on their passive, and her S3 is probably like the strongest debuff ability in the game. A double non-contact strip into seal and unbuffable is ridiculous. And I know people, when she was released, were like, just pick cleanser against her, just pick cleanser. Well, it doesn't really work like that, because in a game like E7, cleansers are the worst archetype because they have the most counterplay in the game. If you pick too many cleanses, your overall like offensive power for your team goes way down, and so does your defensive power. Like, cleansers just make you weak and vulnerable, and the thing is, Luna doesn't need to press S3 to be valuable. Because if you go Edicas on Luna, you can spam your S2 for defense break and tons of damage every turn. So yeah, for that reason, cleansers don't do very well against her because she doesn't need to press her S3. So yeah, very game warping unit. For me personally, she's perma pre-ban because it's not worth trying to deal with her. It's way too much of a headache trying to deal with her. So yeah, very insanely broken unit. And she's probably gonna, she's only gonna get better. Cause like, typically broken units have broken passives. And I don't see anything wrong with like defense break spam that does damage either. So yeah, very strong unit. Would not recommend any human try to deal with her. Sure, maybe you can cleave her, but that takes speed and we don't really care about that. So yeah, next, Death Dealer Ray. Oh boy. In the previous season, a lot of people got away with pre-banning this guy, but now there's way too many broken units that hostage your pre-ban, so he's kind of everywhere. And people have adapted him to be played in pretty much every playstyle. He's good in standard play, he's good in aggressive play, he's good in cleave. In standard play, people are building him super tanky and slower, less effective with Guardian Ice Crystal, and it's insanely hard to deal with. His debuffs are insanely strong, and he's a debuffer that basically counters cleansers, because the thing about his Venom buff is that the venom instantly procs, so you have no window to cleanse it. And that's very, very toxic. He makes traditional cleansers useless. And yeah, very, very annoying unit. His S3 is also really good against cleavers and aggro players because the AoE strip and sleep like destroys tempo. And at the same time, he's really good against defensive players because like he just completely cripples them. Yeah, pretty much an all-rounder unit, and because Guardian Ice Crystal is so powerful, it makes him a decent healer. So yeah, very strong debuffer, very strong healer, very strong anti-aggression unit, very strong cleave unit. So yeah, insanely strong. He is definitely a pillar of the meta. And next we have a tywin. Oh boy, this is not a knight. This is a knight in disguise. Like, his build flexibility is insane. If you're a slow player, you can build him like Protection Set Aureus. If you're a fast player, you can build him anywhere from like 240 to 280 speed with effectiveness. And just slam defense break into people and run them over. And it's absurd. And he's also one of the only knights that has a decent cleanse. So what's really nice about H. Tywin is that his cleanse is on demand. Like, he doesn't need to press a button to cleanse. And the fact that he insta cleanses stuff like Knockwell is very valuable. Especially in this extremely heavy debuff meta. He is definitely the most valuable knight. And he's not even a knight half the time. Like, these aggro players, they build him like Bastion of Perlucia, 280 speed, 100 effectiveness to 200. It's wild. He's a knight, but some people don't play him as a knight. Some people just play him as like a cleave enabler, and it's pretty wild. So yeah, the best knight in the game for many reasons. And he is the last of the S+ tier. So let's move on to the S tier. First we have C. Lilius, and I'm gonna group her with Candy because these two are kind of a pair. So the best drafts right now are pretty much cleave drafts with like Senya and Haste Anchor, Liia drafts, DDR A Tywin drafts, and I feel like the next best draft is C. Lilius and Candy, because Candy can't be slept, so she's resistant to DDR. She also can't be stunned, so she's resistant to A Tywin. And naturally, that makes her quite good against the most popular draft right now. However, she does have quite a bit of weaknesses, namely debuffs, but can kind of work through it. But yeah, C. Lilius, Candy, very, very strong picks, but they have to be accompanied by either Haste or Senya, or maybe even GDR from the S+ tier. Like, these units, they need more broken units to anchor down for them, basically. But if they have support from like Haste and Senya, it makes these two very, very strong. Genua is Genua. He will beat you up. Like, if someone picks like Abyssal Euphine and if Genua is available, Genua is gonna beat him up. Genua basically is strong against anything that can't control their damage well. So like one Euphine counter, like one Candy salvo, and he's gonna be activated, and he's gonna beat stuff up. But I feel like he is less of a problem right now because he gets controlled by debuffs very easily. But he does have quite a good role in aggro and cleave play. If you play RTA a lot, you'll notice people, they love to draft like Bright Senya, Genua, and then a cleave opener on their third pick. But yeah, so right now he's mostly a cleave and aggressive tool, basically. And Liia Lua's a very strong debuffer. However, realistically, you can only play Lua if you picked Liia. Lua Liia is a very strong combo, but the necessity to have Liia on your team keeps her down here in S tier. And Knockwall, pretty much the same story. Like, she's really strong, but she's especially strong if you have Liia, and you don't really want to pick Knockwall into Liia unless you're like stacking debuffs into her. But yeah, Lua and Knockwall, they are the best pairing for Liia because Liia reduces their already short cooldowns, and Liia is one of their only counters. So you're denying a counter pick, and you're picking their best support. Like, these units stall the game, they cripple the enemy team, and then Liia gets her S3, boom boom boom, everything dies. So yeah, very toxic combo with Liia. Abyssal Yufine, oddly enough, the meta is getting tankier and tankier, and it's hard to play her. But she's still decent against cleave. If you for some reason pre-ban Janua, you can pretty much pick her every game. Like, Janua is her biggest counter. She's a decent. She can be a decent 1v4 unit. However, like I said, right now the meta is too debuffy. Like, there's too many defense breaks. Things are too tanky without Beidou and C Armin. It's honestly really hard to play Yufine, but she definitely has a spot as like a bruiser into lower damage teams. A hyper carry bruiser into lower damage teams that can't just outright kill her or control her. But yeah, she's definitely lost quite a bit of popularity. Zio is Zio. He holds book. He stops a lot of pretty much greedy play. Like there's a handful of people, like plenty of people who will slam like Ran and Peyra when Zio is available, and they'll get punished by it. Like, he'll pretty much punish anyone who's playing too greedily, like picking unprotected speed units. Yeah, he's decent at that. And also he enables a lot. Like, he enables like random book cleaves and stuff. So he's a thing. He's a book for Knockwall and all that. A lot of top tier debuffy players, they love to pick Zio, Knockwall, Lua shenanigans, and yeah, he's decent for that. But he's definitely on the more aggressive side. Bunny Dom is an interesting unit. She can be a defensive unit against DDR, but she can also be an extremely aggressive unit. Like, attack buff, CR boost is nothing to laugh at. But also, with Brigida artifact giving souls, she can actually enable a lot of funny cleavy shenanigans. For example, if a popular cleave right now is like a tywin DDR Bunny Dom, and then you slam something like Roy, and then Roy can S3 turn 1 because of Brigida artifact. But yeah, stuff like that makes Bunny Dom very strong. I personally like to play Bunny Dom with Roy. I've also picked her to give Celine souls. Like, Bunny Dom S3, and then Celine has attack buff and soul burn, and it does a lot of damage. So yeah, Bunny Dom definitely very versatile as like a defensive unit and an aggressive unit. But she mostly shines if you're being aggressive. And yeah, she counters Knockwall, she counters DDR to some extent. So yeah, pretty decent unit, but you have to have a plan with her pretty much. Arrowell is like one of the best mitigation knights, although she's lost quite a bit of favor. But she's still pretty decent. She actually enables a lot of aggressive options. For example, Spez, she's Spez's best friend. And Spez is really good into Liia players. But yeah, that's about it. She's decent mitigation. And it's easy to pick mitigation as like a neutral pick. So yeah. Albedo is pretty crazy. 20% crit damage mitigation is absurd. If a team only has crits, then she actually mitigates more than C. Armin as a passive. And the 3F counter Albedo build does so much damage. Like her defense break can beat up anyone who doesn't have ER. She beats up cleavers really hard. And yeah, Albedo is just super strong. Good build diversity. You can be counter 3F. You can be protection set Aureus. You can even be speed 3F if you want. She's just a really good unit. Has like a DPS, mitigation, yada yada, anti-cleave. Yeah, super good. She's basically modern Karina. Karina has fallen out a lot, and Albedo is here to replace her. C. Armin is the go-to mitigation knight. She has damage reduction, she holds Aureus for damage redirect, and she can hold protection set. That is the trinity of mitigation, and C. Armin is the go-to for that. The only other unit comparable would be Albedo. Because like, yeah, there's nothing else. There's nothing else that mitigates like her. So yeah, Ran and Peyra, I'm gonna talk about these units together. So basically, with the introduction of band protection, there is a new toxic cleave draft that I'm going to call Anchor Cleave. And Anchor Cleave has existed in the past, but is very popular and apparent right now because of the nature of the units that are picked. So Anchor Cleave opens up with either Emol, Haste or Senya as their first pick, and then in their second pick will be some kind of DPS such as Fire Politis, Janua, Celine, or anything that can punish the other person's draft, basically. But it's usually Fire Politis or Janua. And then in their band protection, they will slot in their singular opener. And typically these players will pre-ban Zio and pick the fastest opener possible. So you could see a draft like Senya, Janua, Peyra. And then in their last two picks, they will pick bridges. Most likely Emol and something like Jacko. And this is the perfect cleave draft because it has an anchor, which makes it safe. It has a DPS that's neutral. It has the opener. And then it has two bridging DPS, such as Emol or Jacko. And it's really strong and a big issue in the Legend ladder right now. So yeah, top tier units. The only downside is that you must have good speed gear to play them. And yeah, it'll be pretty much a top tier draft. AOL is AOL. Strip, unbuffable, silence, anti-aggro. She's pretty good as an anti-cleave unit too. Yeah, a lot of use. Pretty decent units still. So yeah, that's it for the S tier. So now let's talk about the A tier. So as I said, A tier units are units that you only pick in specific situations, and when you pick them well, they will perform well. First we have Gala. I grouped Gala, Strays, and A Leica because they're very similar. So Gala is very good when the other person has a high HP Aureus Knight that you feel like Gala will be able to kill. And Gala, or she doesn't even have to kill them. She just has to do like half their HP, and then your team can like follow up and like kill everything else. So yeah, Gala is very strong at running people over. If you're careful and you only target Aureus Knights, you should do pretty well. But yeah, she's pretty dangerous to play though, because a lot of people won't recognize when someone has like a very specific playstyle. For example, ER players tend to build their units low HP, and they'll run around with like 20k HP, 8 tywins and stuff. And if you get baited by that, you're kind of dead. But if you can identify that before you pick Gala, you're very fine. Yeah, Gala, very, very powerful unit at running people over, so long as they pick a unit over 24k HP. I do not recommend picking her into Albedo or Ciarman though, because they typically are too tanky. Strays is very similar to Gala, however, he will only kill the highest HP target. And sometimes you can't really pick him that often, because like usually someone will have Liia, and then like what if their Liia is 31k HP and their Ciarman is 30k HP? Strays is gonna do peanut damage. But if you pick Strays carefully, he should pretty much guarantee one-shot something on the enemy team. However, Strays' potential is limited by having Itachi. So yeah, if you have Itachi to spare, Strays is still a pretty decent unit. Some people, if you just take down a unit, you can snowball the game pretty well, and Strays is good at that. So yeah. Only downside is that he only targets the highest HP, and that might be unpredictable. So yeah, Architect Liia, she can pretty much kill any unit that's like less than 25k HP, and you can only pick her when they don't have like Fire Poly or Abyssal Euphium, but otherwise, against slow players, she is ideal because you can target select. For example, if you play like C. Lilius and Candy, people love to pick Bologna, and A-like is really good against it because she can just target the Bologna. So yeah, very, very strong unit. You can delete basically every mid HP bruiser, which is super valuable, and she can also delete like the low HP Emol haste that are running around. And yeah, I grouped these together because they're very similar. Yeah, very nice unit, very nice unit. Next we have Arya. Arya is an interesting one. She is decent against Genua, however, it is 50-50. But in general, when you pick Arya against someone who has like minimal strippers, lots of single targets, and minimal AoE, she is very, very oppressive. Because typically after she presses her S3, like the enemy team will be forced to attack her, and then her counter attacks and her S2 will just snowball the game really hard. If you watch E7 World Cup, that happened quite a bit. She has a lot of potential to 1v4 people, because like her counter attacks can get really out of hand. So yeah, decent unit against basically lots of single target attacks, Genua, fire units, minimal strippers, minimal AoE, but yeah, pretty decent unit. Next we have Braceria. There's not much to say. Braceria is Braceria. She's anti-revive, she's anti-evasion, she's defense break, she's strip, she's unbuffable. And she has potential to do a lot. She can be a cleave opener. She can be a full damage evasion killer. She can be like higher effectiveness and damage hybrid. Yeah, lots of roles. Lots of usability. Yeah, pretty decent unit. Next we have Green Celine. Green Celine. The champion of champion players. Funny enough, I looked up Green Celine's statistics, and I think she's the most picked unit in champion for whatever reason. And honestly, she's really good if you can guarantee that she's gonna proc. But a lot of people would just slam her into any non-attack skill, and a lot of the time she's just gonna die. Cause like people, they need to be pressured to press their buttons for Celine to work, and pressuring people to do that is not actually that easy. She has a lot of counterplay, like just don't press. She's naturally weak to Albedo and Sea Armament because they mitigate too much of her damage. But in the right situations, she is very strong. And of course, you go random EE to make her unpredictable and annoying. Yeah, so then now we have Sharon. Sharon, super flexible. She can be a defense breaker. She's anti-sleep, anti-stun. Yeah, very annoying. You can build her as like a defensive unit, or you can build her as a super aggressive defense breaker. But yeah, overall, yeah, pretty usable unit. Not much else to say. Defense break and stops your team from getting slept and stunned. Very nice. Fumir is quite strong in the Liia Knockwall draft because she's enabled by Liia and Knockwall, and her debuffs are insane. 2-turn defense break, 2-turn sleep. If you land a majority of these debuffs, you will automatically win the game. And she can be built like super high effectiveness to tag cleansers. So yeah, very strong unit in control comps, namely with Liia and Knockwall. There are also some cleavers who play her, however that playstyle is a little too inconsistent. Lionheart Thermia. Oh, whoops. This unit should actually be way down here. Never mind, she's very hard to pick. Emol Bologna is the premier answer to Candy because of her guaranteed crit. Not much else to say. Because she's the best Candy counter, she belongs in this tier. There's pretty much no other reason to pick her besides as a Candy counter. Hand guy, he's the second best cleanser. He's good into any debuffer that doesn't reset his cooldowns. However, he is very hard to pick. Because like, debuffs kind of don't care, or debuffs have too many strips, or debuffs just reset him. But he is the second best cleanser in the game. Fire Politis, really good. Good build diversity. She can be degen, she can be like very tanky, high effectiveness, high ER, built as a debuffer, or she can be built full damage for cleave. Very menacing unit. CR cut is always good. Punishing non-attack skills, always good. Very strong unit. Very flexible. Emol Rowana, insane cleave unit. This unit, you probably see her more than ever this season. Usually picked alongside Ran and Peyra. Like, they strip for her just in case. They guarantee she gets a turn. Cause like the thing is, Ran and Peyra, they get double turn. And Rowanna's CR passive procs per turn, so she actually doesn't care about AE Fiend and Fire Poly as long as they're not together. So yeah, that buff made her a complete menace. Having a strip on her own is also very annoying because like you don't have to have an opener strip for her, and she has pretty good build diversity actually. So the traditional build is like 5k attack, 300 effectiveness, triple hit set. However, there's a new build running around that's pretty much like torrent set with tons of attack and some effectiveness, like triple torrent. She does big damage, like the Peyra attack buff or Ran Silver Rain make her very menacing, and she can do some insane damage. Very potent, aggressive and cleavy unit right now. Very strong. Green Rowana. Green Rowana, she's pretty decent into AoE counterattacks. Yeah, not much else to say. Like, she's decent into Candy sometimes. She's decent into Emol Bologna sometimes. She's a thing. I pick her quite often if I play in Candy because people just tend to slam Bologna into that. And Rowana feeds off Bologna quite a bit. Also decent into like Solitaria and stuff. And speaking of Solitaria is a premier debuffer. she can overload people with debuffs because it's so consistent. And she's also anti-focus. So as long as there are decent focus units in the game, Solitary will pop up every now and then. So yeah, Sage Vivian. Sage Vivian is quite the controversial unit, but I believe that she is insanely strong. I have roughly like 75% win rate with her across like 50 games, and I can say people are definitely playing her wrong. I'd like to pick her into drafts that are like 2 debuffers minimum, 1 low damage unit, and then like mitigation. Like for example, let's say someone picks like Liia, a Tywin, Knockwall, and like Death Dealer Ray. Boom, Sage Vivian, best in slot. But that's pretty much it. She's a very interesting unit. I think she's one of the units that I've seen people mispick the most. But I guarantee if you play her well, she will win a lot of games. And also, book on her is best in slot. Because a huge issue is getting her S3 reset and then you don't have souls to AoE. But if you have book, boom, they're your souls. Acades. I think Acades is one of the better cleansers in the game. You can build her 300 ER pretty easily, and her self CR boost is kinda nice. That's about it. If you need a cleanser with very high ER, like Hades is decent. She has nice cycling. That's about it. If you need a cleanser, she's a thing. However, just don't pick her into soul burn, ignore, or reset. Yeah, that's about it. Green Lilica. Green Lilica used to be very popular. However, the meta kind of changed in a way where she's much less usable. She kind of sucks into Death Dealer Ray, but she's very strong into the prevalent C Lilius drafts, and just that is enough for her to be in A tier. So yeah, very strong against like aggro players that are playing C Lilius. So yeah, decent unit. Emoshu next to DDR is like the premier injury unit. If you need an injury unit and DDR is not on the table, it's Emoshu. However, I used to rate Emoshu much higher, but I need to bring her down because she is honestly really weak to hyper carries like Candy and Aifin. So I feel like she's not a unit that you can ever slam really early anymore. And if you do, you're probably gonna die to like LQC or something. Oh, and speaking of LQC is quite valuable in this meta. Because like there are a ton of slow players playing like Emol Haste, Emol Shoe together, and they typically have very high ER, which means their other stats are low. So LQC will be able to just like delete them. So yeah, LQC just because of the ER style is quite strong right now. Fire Ada, holy moly, this unit's wild. She can easily be a 300 speed debuffer. She's like AOL that doesn't care about Celine. Unbuffable Silence, very strong. However, she also has build diversity. You can also build her as like a DPS because she can, if you have book, you can like soulburn S1, proc strip and defense break, and then press S3. And if you're built damage, you actually do a lot of damage. So yeah, good build diversity can disrupt cleavers. So like if you're 300 speed, you can probably cut into a cleaver or else speed them, or you can just have any build. Basically, she'll punish anyone that strips her or AoEs her to break her stealth. But yeah, surprisingly strong unit. Fire Ravi. Fire Ravi, honestly, she needs dual attackers to be remotely usable. She's decent, but nothing special. She's if you for some reason need a fire bruiser, she is a fire bruiser. And she's like the only fire bruiser that's usable. So for that reason we put her A tier. But yeah, very strong with Emol Poly though. Because like she enables her so hard. But that's about it. She's a fire bruiser. Ed is actually decent into cleavers. Like there are cleavers who like brute force Ran Zio, and Ed is like one of the only options into them. He'll get banned a lot. He'll get banned a lot though. Yeah, decent anti-cleave, pretty much. Bellion 3F Bellion actually does a lot of damage. If you have a 3F, she could also be Protection Aureus. You can pretty much slam her into any cleaver who picks souls by accident, or like they'll just be forced to ban Billion. So yeah, she's a thing. She has a role. Pirate Flan, very good against high ER players. With her 50 free effectiveness, she can reach almost 300 really easily while having decent tank stats. So yeah, super good debuffer against high ER players. Same thing for Araminta. She has a strip into stun, so she's very good for controlling teams with minimal cleansers. Notably a tywin. For example, you press S2, you proc a tywin, you cycle into S3, and then you stun. Very strong against teams that only have a tywin to cleanse. Blue Elena. She's decent into cleavers with like the soul removal artifact, Ning Ning's artifact. She's a decent knockout counter. That's about it. Nothing too special about her, but she is she's definitely usable. Oh, Spez. So Spez is quite the unit. It was like a lot of people play Spez in like, so with ban protection, you can put a stunner in your third slot, maybe like Arrowwell or a tywin or Emol Sharon, and then use them to stun for Spez. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool that you can't really break up the stun combo anymore. But I feel like he's not a unit that you can really pick unless like he's like your game plan to begin with. Because like Arrowwell is not picked too often other than by Spez players. But yeah, he's really strong. If you get the combo off, you pretty much win the game. So yeah, now we have A- tier. So these are picks that they have a role, but they're actually pretty rare. Dark Corvus. Dark Corvus can sometimes 1v4 slow teams. Sometimes he's good against Landy and Ayuthin. But that's only if like they're not accompanied by like injury units and stuff. Or if they don't pop off too much. But yeah, Dark Corvus is sometimes pickable. But not that pickable. So Green Assyria is actually pretty decent with Liia drafts. Like for example, you could reset Liia with her and have her S3 turn 1. And if you have Unseen Observer, Liia can also Soulburn turn 1. A pretty funny draft I used to do, it used to be like Liia, Dark Corvus into Assyria at some point. And it was pretty funny against like Candy Ephine players. That definitely has a funny spot in the meta. Resetting debuffers is also pretty funny. Like if you have Knockwall, Liia, Assyria, like the reset is quite funny. No, she's a thing. Not too rare though. Brigida. Brigida is quite the unit. Like, a lot of people meme her, but I think she's actually pretty decent. A lot of people are playing like a solo carry draft a lot these days, like solo carry Landy. If you pick Brigida into that, she's actually very valuable. But aside from that, Not much. And she very rarely is she good. She's good into like the solo carry drafts, but those aren't that common. But yeah, A Ravi A Ravi is like an Emol shoe backup. Like, she's tanky, she has injury, but she's also very slow. She's like, if you want to pick Emol shoe but you're too scared of dying, she's there. Otherwise, that's about it. A Ross, he's an option for Aureus. He can dual attack with your super carry. He gets Candy and AU Fiend closer to their win con. Defense buff is nice. Yeah, he's decent. He's decent for sure. General Purgus, if you still struggle with Politica Cleavers, General Purgus is a very common answer to them. However, I'm pretty sure they kind of faded away. Like Politica Cleave, and like it's not too popular anymore. And Archdemon is actually pretty decent. A faster build that's revolved around the debuffs is kind of good. Like, let's say like 250 speed with book to burn to seal. Actually really good against teams that are lacking cleanse. Really good against like ER teams that lack cleanse. But you can like seal Emol Shoe off the bat, makes her do no damage. You can seal Emol Haste, you can seal Janua, yada yada, and if they don't have a cleanser, they're pretty much dead. DJV, he's okay. He's okay in that rare scenario where someone picks Peyra and they don't cleave with her. But other than that, DJV doesn't really have any use. Like maybe someone will pick like one opener and then they'll slam Peyra for some reason and then boom, you can pick DJV. But nothing crazy. He exists. He definitely exists. Eden, I know there's like some homage cleavers running around and they're like playing Opsig and stuff. And they tend to pre-ban Yifin. So if you see them coming, you can pick Eden as your mitigation unit and like you can bait them into picking Opsig or something, and it's kind of good. Christy and Maid Chloe, I'm gonna put these units together because they're kind of the same thing. They're to support the ER playstyle, but if you don't really do that, if you're not really into ER, like these units, so you'll like never pick them. Elvira, I think Elvira is decent against double fighting spirit units, but just be careful picking her because a lot of psychopaths out there, they won't ban her. But usually she's a fine pick. But yeah, double fighting spirit, she's okay. She's okay. Justina fell off quite a bit. People distributed their guardian crystals differently. She gets reset easily. But she's just an unreliable cleanser. However, if someone's like trying to kill you, like with like raw damage, like in a bunch of damage dealers, Justina can reset the fight. Like Justina becomes a priority target. So she has pretty good anti-aggro. But that's about it. Emol is a pretty decent unit against some aggro styles. However, he's pretty hard to pick. Because like in cleavers these days, they typically just go with like red Politis, or they have Senya and haste, and like Emol kind of sucks against them. Like Emol is only good against some Unga Bunga cleavers. But yeah, he's still decent. Fairytale Tenebria, really good debuffer. However, it's kind of hard to pick her. Cause like a lot of the times when you want to pick her, they'll have things that like ruin your S3. For example, Bastion of Perlucia gives shield plus immunity and F10 strips the shield. So that means if you fight someone with Bastion of Perlucia and you picked F10, your F10 will guaranteed to miss on 2 units. So she can only be picked into situations where they don't really have a cleanser, and they probably don't have Bastion of Perlucia. But if you can find that situation, she's pretty good. She used to be one of the best debuffers in the game. TML. TML's a thing. She can be like a cleave opener if you're really fast, or you can build her decently high speed with pen set to one-shot like soul weavers who don't have mitigation, but that's about it. It's very rare for someone to not pick mitigation, but some people do, and then boom, you can slam this thing, I guess. Hwa Young's okay. She does like if you have good gear, like a decent speed torn set, you can just like run her into someone and do like 20k damage. And if that 20k damage is enough to win the game, yeah, she'll be pretty good. However, it's quite hard to pick her, considering all these units running around have insanely high HP these days. Yeah, she's an usable unit. Next we have Liia. She's okay. She's good at killing units that are less than 20k HP. However, she has a glaring weakness to injury, so unless you have DDR on your side, you're probably never picking Liia. She's good versus the candy draft with that has Emol haste, because you know, extinction and all that. But yeah, Liia definitely has some sort of spot. Broman. Oh boy, Broman. He's a funny one. He's actually pretty anti-Zeo, and he's anti-Liia. So like, he has 2 turns of silence, which means Liia can't cleanse. So like, I think he's pretty decent into those drafts that pick like Liia, Zeo, and Knockwall. So yeah, he's definitely something. Yeah, so Wukong is okay. His S3 does a lot of damage to units that don't have much attack. He is resistant to Liia, so yeah, that's a thing. But yeah, that's about it. He's resistant to Liia, he's resistant to Senya, he's resistant to haste. He can do a lot of damage with his S3. Yeah, decent green bruiser, but he's pretty hard to pick. Now, like, a lot of things beat him up naturally. Like 3F albedo beats him up, injury beats him up, defense break beats him up. So yeah, it's kind of whatever. Basar. There'll be some ER players who don't pick cleansers, and Basar, Soulburn, Ignore, ER, Unbuffable will kill them. Very rare pick, but decent if you ever pick him. Green Liia is pretty similar to C. Lilius in the way you draft them, but she's much riskier. She doesn't have vigor. She has immunity buff. She has a check buff, but that's kind of whatever. C. Lilius overall has a lot more utility, and yeah, Green Liia, nothing is special, to be honest. I guess attack buff into dual attack is nice, but that's about it. Fire Lilius. Sometimes she's good into Lua. Sometimes she's a decent fire bruiser. She has cleanse. Cleanse is nice. But yeah, nothing special. Nothing really that special. Okay, Camila. Like, unironically, you probably won't see Camila. You probably won't use Camila ever unless you play Candy. But ER Camila is very funny. Like I like to pick Camila into like DDR and a tywin with high ER and just like ignore them as they throw their stuff, and then just dual attack them to death. Yeah, Camila's a thing if you play Candy. Benny Maru. Unironically, Benimaru is a little decent right now, because like a lot of players, they'll just they like to slam debuffers. Like Knockwall DDR, boom, it's a Benimaru game. So yeah, Benimaru actually decent. And then K Clarissa, if you play Candy, K Clarissa is like the premier cleanser. It's pretty easy to build her over 300 ER to deal with Knockwall, as long as they don't have soul burn. So yeah, premier cleanser if you're a Candy player. Spectre Tenebria, you can pick her into all single target attacks. That's pretty much it. She's not as good as she used to be. LRK is sometimes good into a tywin as long as they don't have a stripper. That's about it. Rimuru, he's decent into Gala. Cause like Gala presses S3, then Rimuru goes and kills her. And it's like a 1-for-1, I guess. He's okay. He's okay. Shout here, premier evasion killer, 100% hit rate, no RNG. She has injury to boot, so it's pretty nice. Yeah, just an injury killer. Aiden, she's an anti-dark unit, but she's a bit more unreliable than LQC. And yeah, and not much to say. She's pretty much an anti-dark unit now. It's too hard to pick Aiden otherwise. Unless you're like cleaving with her, like she's a decent anchor, I guess. Yeah. Abigail, Abigail's sometimes good against single target teams, especially Gala. Like she'll protect a unit, and then like they'll come back with the immortal and the healing. She's okay. She's okay. Definitely has a slot. Last piece, Karen. She's also an evasion killer. However, if you have the gear, she can also be a knockwall killer as long as the knockwall does not have much mitigation. Don't try to kill knockwall behind Ciarman. Don't try to kill knockwall behind Albedo, and you're fine. But yeah, decent unit, but very gear intensive. So yeah, you probably won't be using her much. Roy, if you have a very fast bunny down with Brigida artifact, Roy is actually a very strong unit. But you can't pick it too often. Unless your bunny dom is like 300 speed, but that's very hard. Karina's huge fall from grace. She's pretty much, she sucks against Ran, Pera, pretty much everything that's a meta cleave right now. But like some like pure damage like aggro shenanigans she's kinda good against. She's kinda good at reverse cleaving that stuff, but otherwise she's kinda whatever. BVK is actually kinda decent against cleavers. Cause like she has immortal and then she has a second immortal. And a lot of cleavers tend to only pick one strip and then BVK kinda kills them. So yeah, that's cool. Arbiter Vildred, Degen RB is very strong and so is regular RB. Degen RB is quite good anti-cleave and regular RB is... yeah, he does a lot of damage. If you need to overwhelm someone with damage and they don't have much sustain, yeah, normal full damage RB is kinda nice. Winter... I think Winter is actually sometimes good into people who pick like super defensive teams with low damage and a lot of non-attack skills. Like she will actually ramp decently well. And her 2-turn stun counters Liia kind of. Like a lot of people play like Liia, Ciarman, DDR, Green Luluka. And like Winter will probably mess them up. Ruel's like Abigail, she's kind of decent when someone picks like a bunch of single target damage, but otherwise not too usable. Single target cleave, she's decent. She's okay. Lionheart is sometimes good, very rarely though. Like sometimes someone... like her issue is she doesn't do any damage to Ciarman, but like if you can set up the cleave, if you can set it up to like hit on to like some defense break, she's kind of good. But otherwise she is kind of whatever. And for the rest of the units, they're not really worth talking about. They're all inconsistent in some way. For example, Landy, you miss Guiding Light, you die. Ainz, you miss your S3, you die. Bihu, you miss a burn, you lost half your damage. Biblis, they don't counter, you're worthless. Who are you? Blue Shoe... Blue Shoe is like... Okay, I know like a lot of people like her, but she's like a downgrade of Candy and Yufin, because for Blue Shoe to win a game, she needs to go through ridiculous RNG hurdles, and that's not too good. Dilly sucks as a cleanser because every debuffer kind of beats her up right now. Like, she gets reset, she gets sealed, she gets dumpstered, and she sucks against anchor units. And then, yeah, there's not much else to say. FCC got power crept by protection stat, she's just bad. Emol Ken is Emol Ken. He gets beaten up on the regular. Cause like, he doesn't really counter what he's supposed to counter. And yeah, not much to say about these units, they're just not that good. They're just not that good. But yeah, that's about it for this video. Thank you everyone for watching, I hope it was helpful, and good luck with your RTA climb. Hope to see you guys on the ladder and having a good time.